Sony has revealed which games will be added to the PS Plus Extra and Deluxe catalog on May 21st. Give it a like, subscribe, and find out. The first new game in the catalog will be Red Dead Redemption 2. This game was already on the subscription, and many were deeply disappointed by its removal, but here it is with us again. Red Dead Redemption 2 is an open-world, third-person action-adventure game in the Wild West setting with great graphics and interesting story. Also, Red Dead Online is included in the game. There are story quests, as in the main game, and simple tasks for time, and PvP tests, and races, and capture territories, and even a kind of royal battle. All in all, if you haven't had enough of the main game, Red Dead Online will help you out. The game Deceive Inc. will also be added to the catalog. Players control a spy who competes against other spy teams for a package. Each contestant has a holographic projector that they can use to disguise themselves as NPCs. But if you open fire, the disguise falls off. The point is to change the disguise and imitate the NPC's behavior as accurately as possible so that other players don't guess that you are the player, and then you have to find the parcel and evacuate from the location. In my opinion, it's a very unusual game with a lot of mechanics to both find other spies and resist tracking you. The next game to be added to the extra subscription is called Crime Boss: Rockay City. According to the story, the game begins with the death of Rockay City's leader, and the player will have to take control of the underworld in 90s Florida by robbing, killing, and completing various side quests. Gameplay-wise, Crime Boss is similar to Payday, with a single-player campaign and a 4-player PvE mode. Crime Boss features a star-studded cast: Chuck Norris, Michael Rooker, Danny Trejo, Michael Madsen, Kim Basinger. All these and many other movie actors are present in the game. The fourth new game of the subscription was Watch Dogs. In the first part of this third-person action game, in the open world with stealth elements, the action unfolds in the city of Chicago, where the operating system CTOS controls almost every corner of the city and also contains information about all its residents. The main character of the game, hacker Aiden Pierce, can hack into electronic devices connected to this system. He is looking for those responsible for the death of his niece and will stop at nothing. 5. The Lego Movie 2 video game will be added to the PS Plus Extra catalog in May. The second installment tells the story of how the world of constant construction was suddenly invaded by alien invaders who began destroying everything in their path. Emmett and Lucy decided to save their home and fight back against the invaders from outer space. To do this, they gathered all their friends and together began to fight the enemies. The gameplay is borrowed from LEGO Worlds and LEGO Dimensions, for which the game was trashed by critics and players. The next game to be added to the Cat Quest subscription will be Cat Quest 2. It is a top-down action Jaar RPG set in the Kingdom of Felingard. The player takes control of an anthropomorphic cat who sets out to find his kidnapped sister. In the second part, the King of Cats and the King of Dogs are to be controlled as they work together to free their kingdoms from tyranny. Also in May, The Settlers, New Allies, Stranded, Alien Dawn, and The Sims City Living DLC will be added to the extra subscription. Deluxe and Premium subscribers will also be able to play the racing game 2 Extreme, the shooter G-Police, and Worms Pinball. You will be able to try all these games next week, on May 21st. Also on that day, 35 games will leave the subscription, and now I will tell you about them. The first game leaving the subscription in May is Teardown. It is a destruction simulator where the player is asked to take on the role of a looter and destroyer of anything and everything, which looks impressive because of the unique physics of destruction and interactivity with the surrounding world. To complete missions, the player can use pickaxes, explosives, vehicles, and other tools to destroy walls, roofs, tables, glass, and more. Also, leaving the subscription is Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition. This is an open-world, third-person action-adventure game, the events of which take place in the Exist century. Humanity has been thrown back to tribal life and has to fight robotic animals to survive. The game has an interesting sci-fi plot, and the enemies to fight with and the ways of their destruction are unique and not similar to anything else. On May 21st, 4 parts of Darksiders will leave the subscription. Darksiders War Mastered Edition, Darksiders 2 Definitive Edition, Darksiders 3, and Darksiders Genesis. These are slashers in which you have to play as 4 horsemen of the apocalypse and fight with demons and other evil things. Each part has a new protagonist and new mechanics. The first part is a classic slasher, where the protagonist is War Horseman. In the second part, you will play as Death, and the game was added loot that falls out of enemies. The third one was made similar to Souls-likes with Rider Fury in the main role. Well, Genesis is an isometric action game, which can be played in two-player co-op for the Horseman War in Discord. Recfest will leave the PS Plus extra catalog in May. It's a survival racing game. Cars vary in technical characteristics, such as acceleration, drive, and strength, and have tuning and styling options. Each car has a certain class, which the higher it is, the better the performance. During races, vehicles are damaged in collisions, which affects their appearance and performance values. And if they are badly damaged, when the engine or suspension fails, the competitor is eliminated from the race. The 8th game leaving the subscription was Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning. This is a remaster of the 2012 third-person action RPG with improved graphics, gameplay changes, and the presence of all released DLC. The player can expect dynamic battles, exploration of the game world, a serious system of character creation and development, and a sharp story unfolding in a detailed fantasy universe. Next, I would like to draw your attention to the fact that the catalog leaves 7 games of the Final Fantasy universe. These are Final Fantasy XV, Royal Edition, Final Fantasy VII, Original, Final Fantasy VIII Remastered, Final Fantasy IX, Final Fantasy XX2 HD Remaster, Final Fantasy 13, The Zodiac Age, World of Final Fantasy. If you don't know which one to try, I recommend Final Fantasy XV. It's modern, beautiful, and about the rest, you can decide for yourself. Or if you know how to play finals, you can recommend in comments which one is worth to pass in the remaining days. Also, my friend Pedro is leaving the subscription. This is a shooter in which the protagonist kills everyone in his path at the behest of a talking banana named Pedro. The protagonist is very dashing, jumping around the levels, tumbling, dodging bullets, because of which the whole game turns into a spectacular and bloody dance of death. I really wanted to play it, but somehow I didn't have enough time. So now, I'll have to try to make it in a hurry. On May 21st, The Messenger will leave the subscription. It's an old-school pixel action platformer about a young ninja who has the honor to save his native village from the army of demons. The game will definitely appeal to the old guys who love Ninja Gaiden on the 8-bit, but I'll warn you that The Messenger is not for the weak. Abzu will be leaving the PS Plus extra catalog in May. It's a meditative, colorful adventure set in an underwater world where the player has to control a girl diver, explore ancient ruins submerged in the ocean, and solve puzzles to learn more about the ancient civilization that used to live there. The 19th game leaving the subscription was How to Survive 2. It is a top-down survival horror with RPG elements, where the player tries to survive in a world inhabited by zombies. He has to build his camp, get food and water, and find other survivors. How to Survive 2 can be played alone, or in local co-op or online with friends. Also leaving the subscription in May will be Last Stop. It is a third-person adventure game set in present-day London. You will play as 3 different characters whose lives collide in the course of supernatural events. On May 21st, Jotun Valhalla Edition will leave the subscription. This adventure game is for those who have not had enough of Kratos' adventures in the Scandinavian lands. You will play as Thor, who fell in battle and must prove to the other gods all his valor to get a pass to Valhalla. The 22nd game leaving the subscription was Sunderland Eldritch Edition. The plot of the game tells the story of a girl, Ash, who found herself underground in a certain temple, and there a strange mineral tetrahexahedron spoke to her, asking her to follow his instructions in exchange for help in escaping to freedom. Sundered is a Metroidvania where you have to fight enemies and bosses in melee combat and gain new abilities to get into other areas. Also, the passageways connecting the game's locations are rebuilt after each death. LX and LX2 will leave the PS Plus extra catalog in May. The action of this action Jaar RPG takes place on the planet Magellan, divided into 4 regions, completely different from each other. The story begins after a meteorite falls, bringing great destruction and the mysterious element LX, which can activate the machine and give magical powers. The game is played as the commander of the Albs Jax, who is fighting with his former faction. The game looks and plays very unpleasant, but as an RPG is quite good. Also in May, 2 parts of This Is the Police will leave the subscription. These are strategy games, where the player has to play the role of a policeman. Whether it will be a good cop, or he will be mired in corruption, arms dealing, drug dealing, depends entirely on the player's actions. The main thing is to fulfill the daily duties of a policeman and not to arouse suspicion in the eyes of colleagues. On May 21st, Minute will leave the subscription. It is a kind of a small adventure, lasting only 1 minute at a time. The player is invited to leave his cozy home and go on a journey to help unusual characters uncover countless secrets, and defeat dangerous enemies to get rid of a rather unpleasant curse that ends any day after 1 minute. Observation will be leaving the PS Plus Extra catalog in May. It is a sci-fi thriller that tells the story of the fate of Dr. Emma Fisher and her team. The player will control the Artificial Intelligence System, SAM, which has control over the control systems of the station, cameras, and instruments. Also leaving the subscription in May will be Space Adventure ADR1FT, platformer about a young musician, The Artful Escape, Action RPG Ashen, Adventure Puzzle Game, I Am Dead, Open World Third-Person Martial Arts Action, Absolver Downfall, Racing Game MX vs. ATV Legends, and Car Simulator Monster Jam Steel Titans 2.